I want you to picture something with me. Your kid just played. Maybe they had a good game, maybe they didn't. Maybe they played 12 minutes and sat the rest. Maybe the coach made a call you didn't understand. Maybe your kid came off the field looking fine, and you can't tell if they're actually fine or if they've just gotten good at pretending to be fine around you. And now you're in the car. They've got their headphones in. They're looking out the window. You said something a few minutes ago, something you thought was encouraging, and it landed wrong, or it landed nowhere, and now you're sitting in this quiet that doesn't feel like peace. And somewhere in the back of your head, underneath all the replaying and the calculating and the wondering, there's a question you don't say out loud. Am I doing this right? If you felt something when I said that, if that question lives in you somewhere, then this video is for you. Stay with me.
My name is Buford. I'm not a coach. I'm not a scout. I don't have a license or a title in this sport. What I have is 17 years inside competitive youth soccer as a parent. I've driven the early morning drives. I've sat in those bleachers in November when it's 38 degrees. I've had the car ride home where I said the wrong thing and knew it the moment it left my mouth. My son Dante played competitive soccer, and when I say I understand what you're carrying right now, I'm not saying that from a clipboard. I'm saying it from experience. I built the soccer parent because of one thing I kept noticing. The youth soccer world is full of resources for players and coaches. Nobody is talking to the parents. Nobody is translating what's actually happening on the field, on the bench, in the car, in a way that actually helps. That's what I do. And today, I want to talk about the one thing I hear more than anything else, even if nobody says it out loud. Am I doing this right?
Here's the first thing I want to say, and I need you to hear this clearly. The parents who are most worried about whether they're getting this right are almost never the ones who should be worried. Think about that for a second. The parents who are actually causing harm in their kids' soccer experience, the ones who are coaching from the sideline when the coach isn't looking, who are picking apart every game before the kid has had a chance to drink their water, who have a kid who has quietly started to dread the drive home, those parents are not watching this video. They've already decided they're right. You are watching this video. You are asking the question. That tells me something important about you. But, and this is the part I don't want you to skip past, caring about it is not the same as handling it well. Caring deeply, genuinely caring, can create its own kind of pressure that you can't see from where you're standing.
And that's what I want to talk through today. Ask most competitive soccer parents how they describe their presence at games and practices, and you'll hear some version of, I think I'm pretty good. I stay positive. I don't coach from the sideline. And I believe them, mostly. But I want to push on that phrase, healthy presence, because I think we're not all defining it the same way. A healthy presence doesn't just mean you're not the parent screaming at the referee. It doesn't just mean you've read the articles about keeping quiet during games. It doesn't even mean your kid has never asked you to tone it down. A healthy presence means your kid feels supported by the fact that you're there. Not observed, not evaluated, supported. Those are different things, and the gap between them is almost invisible from where you're standing. Let me give you some examples. The parent who cheers every single touch their kid makes. Supportive or pressure? The parent who goes completely silent when their kid doesn't get playing time. Giving space or loading the room with tension. The parent who debriefs every game on the drive home, going through what worked and what didn't. Connected or accidentally critical.
The answer to every one of those is it depends. It depends on your kid, on your history, on whether your child reads your silence as safe or as a verdict. And that's exactly the kind of thing that's impossible to see in yourself without some outside perspective. Here's something I noticed in my own experience that took me way too long to name. Most of the pain in competitive youth soccer, I mean the real, daily, grinding emotional weight of it, is not being carried by the kids. It's being carried by their parents. Your kid has a tough game, limited minutes, a coach decision that doesn't make sense. They come off the field, they grab their water bottle, they joke around with a teammate for 30 seconds, and they are moving on. They might be disappointed, they might be a little quiet, but they are processing it and letting it go, because kids are built for that. They live in the moment, and the next moment is coming. And you?
You're replaying the substitution decision. You're calculating minutes and comparing them to the kid who started over yours. You're trying to figure out if this is a trend or a blip. You're wondering if you should say something, and if so, when and how, and whether it would help or backfire. They are over it before you get to the parking lot. You are still thinking about it Monday morning. They moved on. Did you? Now here's why this matters. And I say this with complete respect for how much you love your kid. Kids are mirrors. When your child looks at you after a hard game and sees worry, or tension, or suppressed frustration, they absorb it. They start to feel like the stakes are higher than they are. They start to feel like their performance is connected to your emotional state. And that is a weight no 12-year-old should be carrying. The hardest thing I ever had to acknowledge as a soccer parent was this. Sometimes I was the weather in the car, and my kid was checking the forecast before he even took off his cleats. I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm saying it because recognizing the pattern is the only way to change it.
The behaviors that create the most friction in soccer families are rarely the big obvious ones. They're not screaming at a referee. They're not arguing with the coach in the parking lot. They're the quiet ones, the ones that come from love, the ones that are almost impossible to see in yourself. They're the way you pause before you say something after a loss, and your kid notices the pause before you say a single word. They're the way you ask, "How did it feel out there today?" when what you actually want to know is, "Why didn't you get more minutes?" They're the way you've started driving an extra 15 minutes to Tuesday practice just to watch, and your kid has started saying, "You really don't have to come, Dad," in a tone that means something. They're the way you talk about the other kids on the team when your child isn't in the room, and then you notice your kid has started comparing themselves to those same kids constantly, and you can't figure out where that's coming from. None of these are bad parent behaviors. They are loving parent behaviors that have tipped slightly past the line. And because they come from care, not selfishness, not ego, just love, they are almost impossible to catch in yourself. That is not a character flaw. That's what it looks like when you care deeply about something you can't control. I want to close with something that reframes all of this. I've talked to a lot of adult players over the years, people who grew up in the youth soccer system, players who went on to play in college, players who didn't, players who loved the game, and players who burned out before they got there. And when I ask them what they remember about their parents during those years, it's almost never about tactics. It's almost never about which club they were on, or which coach they had, or whether their parents understood the game. They remember whether the car ride home felt safe. They remember whether their parents' face looked proud or tense when they came off the field. They remember whether they could talk about a hard game without it becoming a film session. And they remember, and this one I want you to sit with, they remember whether soccer felt like their thing or their family's thing. Your child's relationship with competition, with effort, with disappointment, with getting back up, that's being shaped right now, in these years, on these drives, after these games. And the parent who creates the conditions for that growth isn't the one with the loudest cheers or the most detailed analysis. It's the one who figured out how to be present without being the story. So, if you've been watching this and something landed, if any of this felt like I was talking about your car, your drive home, your silence at a game, here's what I want you to do. I built a quiz called the Soccer Parent Type Quiz. It takes about 3 minutes. It asks you real questions about your real situation, not hypotheticals, not generic parenting stuff. It's built for competitive soccer parents specifically. And at the end, it tells you which of 6 soccer parent types you are. Not to label you,
Not to shame you, but to give you a clear picture of where you actually are and what you actually need so you can stop guessing. Because the question, am I doing this right, doesn't have one answer. It has 6, and yours is specific to you. The link is in the description. It's free. It takes 3 minutes. If you finish it and think, that described me exactly, that's the point. That's what I built it for. And if you finish it and think, I need more than a quiz result, there's a resource matched to your type on the results page. Something built for exactly where you are. Take the quiz. Find out where you actually stand, and give yourself some credit for asking the question in the first place. Most parents never do. I'm Buford, the soccer parent coach. I'm here every week with honest conversations about what this life actually looks like from the parent's side of the fence. If this one helped, share it with another soccer parent. Not because I need the views, but because there are parents driving home right now carrying this question alone, and they don't have to. Link to the quiz is below. I'll see you in the next one.